Hi guys, JB here. Announce basically telling you that Burnley Watford is called off. Um, the whole thing I think is a farce. Apparently, there's been COVID cases. Um, there's been COVID cases uh, in the uh, in the Watford camp. Why would you announce that 2 hours before a football match? I never know. And the game has been called off. I find that first of all, I find that amazing. And I think it's ridiculous. And I just want to make my feelings perfectly clear on this because, as a Burnley fan, I feel annoyed. As a commentator, I feel annoyed because this game was going to be played out on JB Sports via the commentary hub. It was going to be our main feature game. Now I've had to change my notes to accommodate. I'm now doing Barrow Ipswich a bit later on, so I'm doing that instead of what would have been a relegation 6-pointer tonight. Now, I'm going to, obviously, I'm not going to say this from a commentator's point of view. I feel a bit annoyed from a commentator's point of view because I've actually I spent most of last night, late last night, putting all the stats and facts and everything for the clubs, the two teams, top scorers, who's in charge of the game and whatever, the referee and everything. I spent about like 2 nights doing them, right? I spent a late night last night doing all that. I didn't go to bed till 2, right? My grievance is this: if why were the tests not done sooner? Manchester United got their game called off about 10 hours before they were due to play Brentford last night. I think, weren't they? Something like that, right? 10 hours before. Now that's fine. If you've got COVID cases and the game gets postponed and you've given a 10-hour notice, then and the Premier League say, okay, we get you, fine. If you've got the proof, fine. What makes me suspicious about this cancellation tonight of Burnley against Watford is A, the timing of it, and B, the lack of any substance coming out of Watford Football Club. Who's been affected? What evidence have they got to say for that? And what was their motivation for cancelling the game? Because firstly, if they well, I've got to say this. If it has been proven, and if it has been proven that they have just cause, and then fair enough. But if they've used it, and I've got a suspicion they might have done. I mean, the protocol is that after there's a cut-off point where 4 hours, if it's below the 4 o'clock, before the 4 hour deadline before the game, if it's less than 4 hours before kick-off under Premier League rulings, we believe that the game should have gone ahead. Now, how many? First of all, I'd like to know one, how many COVID cases, if there are any, in the Watford team. Two, who they will be and what they are. And three, legitimate reasons for why they cancelled it. Otherwise, it's worthless because I'm I'm just aghast because I left to do my day job 6 hours ago, and there was no inkling at all that the game was ever in danger of being postponed. I got through work, okay, and then Russ rings me up about 5 o'clock saying, just as I'm finishing, or just as I've finished, to say that the game's been postponed due to COVID reasons. Now, why would you do that 2.5 hours before the kickoff, and B actually announce it? My theory is, I could be wrong, but I think they've called it off under false pretenses. Now, this is my reasoning for it. Now, before people switch off and say, "Come on, you're being bitter. You're a bitter Burnley fan and everything like that," we'll hear out my reasons as to why I think it's been done under false pretenses. Okay, one, it's a relegation 6-pointer. Now, if Burnley were to win that game tonight, if it had been played and Burnley had won, we'd have got a point clear with a better goal difference, right? Simple as it. We'd have gone into that game against Aston Villa on Saturday on top of the world. Now, Watford, sometimes the southern teams don't fancy a trip up north during the week. Now, I don't know what the game was. I don't know what Ranieri was thinking of. But if he's called that game off under false pretenses, then Watford and I think the Possos, Watford and Ranieri and the whole football club have to be held accountable. Because if you've called a game off under false pretenses, then you're not going to look good for your supporters. I mean, some of the supporters have travelled up from Watford. I feel for them a bit, I feel for the Watford fans in a way, but I don't have any sympathy for the football club if they've been proven to have used COVID as a smokescreen. Now, I'll tell you another reason why they could have done that. They've got 6 injuries. They've got 6 injury concerns. Now, some teams will think, oh, well, they've relaxed the protocol on COVID. We can use this to our advantage. We can sort of like say, well, we've got COVID cases, but actually, we'll just say they've got COVID, but they're actually injuries. And, you could actually make a case for that because they've got 7 or 8 players possibly unavailable for tonight's game, but would have been unavailable for tonight's game for injury. And if that's the case and they played in the rearranged game and they won it, then that's gaining an unfair advantage. And this is what I'm getting at, because if they've been proven to have broken the rules, because if they haven't got any COVID cases whatsoever and they've used it as a smokescreen, this is what I think should happen to them, to Watford. This is 1, Burnley. The game should be null and void, and Burnley should be awarded an automatic victory, which means 3 points to us. B, a heavy fine for Watford. And I'd actually go as far as C, chuck them out the Premier League, because that is cheating. That is out against the spirit of the game. Not only that, Watford should play Burnley for A, loss of revenue for tonight's game, B, the television money, because Burnley would have got money for that, for appearing on television. And we don't appear on television often enough. The TV companies, for whatever reason, want to banish us to the sidelines. And 3, apologise, because it's not right. Something just doesn't add up. You don't go around saying, oh, we're going to postpone it 2.5 hours before kick-off because we got COVID cases. And another question I want to ask Watford. Why didn't you do your PCR tests about 9 hours ago? Before you came up to the game? Would have been okay if you'd have said, like, say 24 hours, 10 hours ago, like, okay, we've got some COVID tests, we've got some COVID cases, we've proven them to you, whatever, we'll do that. There is, there's a genuine feeling in my body, and I hope I'm wrong, but I've got a funny feeling I might be right here, that Watford have used the COVID rules as an excuse. Whether they have or not, if it's contrary to the rules, then I'll step back and apologise. But something doesn't add up when you're calling the game off 2 hours, less than 2 hours before the kick-off due to COVID cases. If they had COVID cases, announce it sooner. Why didn't you not take your test sooner? Something's fishy is going on here. And as a Burnley fan, I don't want to sound bitter, but I feel bitter because there'll be a lot of Burnley fans travelling tonight now and will be scrambling on all the buses back home now, because it's an absolute disgrace. You can't, if it's been proven, as I say, if Watford have been proven, and that is a big word, if they've been proven to be counselling a football game under false pretences, as I said, heavy fine, default the match, 3 points automatically goes to Burnley. And B and C, I would actually go as far as this if they kept, if it has been proven and several of their squad were injured and there were no COVID cases, I'd actually throw them out the Premier League and bar them for 2 years, even if they got promoted or not, as a deterrent to stop other Premier League clubs from trying to, Burnley included, to try and stop clubs trying the same tactic. They knew full well that they might not have fancied it tonight. So Ranieri's played the COVID card by the sounds of it. I could be wrong. I could be right. But from what I've been gathering on Twitter, it doesn't seem right. The Burnley fans are up in arms about it, quite rightly so. Us Burnley fans are up in arms about it. It's not just me that feels that. A lot of Burnley fans on Twitter feel exactly the same way. Something fishy is going on here. The Premier League have said nothing. Watford have clearly said nothing. Something untoward is happening here, and I don't like the smell of it. And I hope and pray that the Premier League crack down on what if Watford have been proven to be using this as a smokescreen to get the game called off under false pretences, then the Premier League need to come down very hard on those 3 levels. A, have them thrown out the Premier League. B, a heavy fine. and see, right, automatic 3-0 win to Burnley, 3 points to the Clarets. Simples. That's how I feel tonight. I'm not bitter and twisted, but when something like this happens 2 hours before the kickoff, there's got to be a few questions that seriously need answering. And Ranieri is the whole Watford Football Club are a disgrace if proven that they've falsified the rules to their advantage. They should be ashamed and themselves, and they're an absolute disgrace of a football club. There you go. Anyway, I'll see you later for Barrow against Ipswich. It's not the game I would have liked to have covered for obvious reasons, but it is what it is. But I just hope the Premier League sees sense and come down hard on Watford if they have been proven to have bent the rules or even broken them for their own gain. I just hope for their sake they have got COVID cases. I hope, without being disrespectful, I hope they go, then fair enough, I can sort of take back what I've said. But you can't, from a Burnley perspective, you can't help but feel annoyed, frustrated, angry that Watford have done this some 2 hours before kick-off. Why didn't you take your PCR tests a lot sooner? If you've been proven to have COVID cases, then fair enough. But the question will remain, why did you not take your swab test about 10 hours before you were due to go to the game? Doesn't make sense. Anyway, I'll see you a bit later. Take care. Bye-bye.